Okay, so welcome to the recorded lecture on presentation of statement of comprehensive income. The focus will be on the analysis of expense. Okay, so whenever an entity wants to present their um, operational performance, and of course that will include presentation of profit or loss, revenue, expenses. They can use either or present the financial statement, especially the statement of comprehensive income, either on their nature or base or the expense, nature of expense or the function within the entity. Of course, whichever suits the need of the reader of the financial statements, that should be the uh, criterion in selecting which or how it will be or how the comprehensive income will be presented. So the first method is what we call nature of expense method. So the focus here will be more of focusing on the characteristics or nature of the expenses. So for example, depreciation, even if the depreciation is for office equipment or sales equipment, they will not look into the function, but rather they will look into the characteristics or the nature of the expense. Another example will be employee benefits. Even if the employee benefits pertains to the factory staff or manufacturing staff or uh, sales staff or admin staff, it doesn't matter. They'll just aggregate the cost and then present it as employee benefits. Okay. So this method is quite simple, but of course, it doesn't provide emphasis on the function of the expenses, where the expense is actually focusing on. Is it for sales or for admin or for manufacturing? So example of that will be here. So you can see we have revenue, other income, and then changes in inventory of finished goods and work in progress, raw materials and consumables used, employee benefits expenses, depreciation and amortization expense, other expenses, total expenses. So the focus is primarily on the nature of the expense. Now the second method is the function of expense method, which basically most of the accounting students are using because it was most of the time taught inside the classroom. Okay, so we also know this as cost of sale method. So how it will be presenting is that all expenses with the same function or included in the same function should be clubbed together. Okay, of course based on their expense nature or functionality and based on the identity of the expense. So for example, sales expense, okay, that will be part of the distribution cost. Salary of the staff, admin staff, will be part of the administrative cost, and so on and so forth. So this method can provide more relevant information to users than the classification of expenses by nature. But allocating cost to functions may require arbitrary allocations and involve considerable judgment. Of course, at times, especially in practice, you may not, or it will be quite difficult to distinguish whether the expense is part of the sale or part of the admin. So you have to be really good in judging or identifying which function it will or it's operating. So example will be here. So the revenue and then cost of sales, you deduct, you will have gross profit. Then you will have other income added. Distribution costs, which is of course the selling expenses, those transport costs and things like that. Administrative expenses, focusing on the office expenses. And then there will be other expenses, probably like finance costs. And then you will have profit before tax. Okay, so that's my recorded presentation. Thank you for listening and hope you learned something.